After Sundays, we have what we call the after party. Everyone's always invited to our after party. It's at my house, and it's just a bunch of people getting together, okay? So it's just bring your own, it's not really a party at all. Just come, okay? Bring your own food, hang out. We talk about a lot of things. And I a lot of times get my material from those moments where we have people coming over, and I just start asking questions like, hey, so dating. Talk to me about dating for a second. And we get, some Sundays you get a heavy amount of 20-somethings. And I think somebody described it, it's like swimming in a pool of poop. There's no good options out there. It's just awful. Like the way people date, it's just crazy to me. And you're like, okay, let's dig deeper into not the pool of poop, but why would you call dating in your culture like swimming in a pool of poop? And it's like, because the intentions of dating in this culture is, most people would say it's not a date unless it ends with sex. And then it's like, but I don't want to do that. And then I get it. That's all I got to say. It's like, oh yeah. When it's like that, it is like swimming in a pool of poop. It's like, how are you supposed to survive? And what does Jesus have to say on the subject of dating? Spoiler alert, there was no dating in Jesus' culture, so he doesn't actually say this is how you should date, okay? If you're going to look for that, you're not going to find that today. But you might find some things that will get you to think. When it comes to love, Western culture is beautiful, and having great songs like that dictate what love is. Think about Netflix. The way every movie in Netflix is, for the most part, like you have your random movie that it's like, it's a shocker because it doesn't end the way you thought it was. But all those romantic comedies and all the, it always is, you as the viewer goes, those two are going to end up. And it takes an hour and a half before they actually get together, but you knew it the whole time. You're like, yeah, they're going to end up. And it's like, they say, I do. And it's like, oh, that's so romantic. That is such a great love movie. And it's like, in our culture, we just think love is a promise. I do, and it's over. It's like, yeah, it's just beautiful. There's not very many movies that go past the I do, because once you say I do, it's like I do a lot of work. Woo, that love thing is a lot of work. That is not just a promise. Woo, and what does Jesus have to say with love? And then when it comes to sex, what does Jesus have to say with that? Because that does not line up at all, for the most part, with what culture has to say. So it's going to be a fun series. And again, just so that I can keep you, like as parents, just make sure if you have, as I work a little bit to get so I don't trip over these things, as parents, if you haven't had what they say the talk is, make sure you sit your middle schooler down and give the talk. And here's why I even would ask you to do it, because it's wise. If you don't teach them, culture will teach them. Their locker buddy will teach them. In middle school, if you're not teaching them, culture will. Like, here's a sad fact. My 5-year-old was playing an app on his iPad in one of our trips recently, and all of a sudden he had something pop up, and he clicked it, and all of a sudden there were naked people on his screen. Now, very fortunate that in our house no one's allowed to sit there and play their iPad without either in the kitchen. They got to be around people. They can't take it to their bedroom. It's just house rules. And so one of the other kids go, "Whoa, what is that?" And they voice loudly, like, "What just happened there?" And it breaks my heart, one, that somebody gets paid to put that stuff in front of people. It breaks my heart because it's like a 5-year-old just clicked something that looked inviting when he's playing an age-appropriate game, and he clicks an ad inside the game to get him. Breaks my heart because if I don't step in and teach him that, hey, that's not okay, and teach him why, not just it's a rule, then he's going to go down that puts him in a trajectory that's not healthy for his life, or gives him the results he wants when it comes to dating, in a loving relationship, and sex. And so, mom and dad, talk about it. Talk about it, because if you're not talking about sex and what it should be like, you're missing with your kids. And don't. And I was going to say this before, but this is appropriate. Don't disqualify yourself because you might not have done it the way that you hear in the next few weeks. Don't disqualify you. You are the parent. You are the guiding force in their life. When you hear, oh, I didn't do it right, don't go, what foot can I stand on? I didn't do it right, so I'll just let my kids do it. No, that's not wise or good parenting. When you learn over the next few weeks going, oh, I didn't know that, I'm going to I'm going to implement that in the way I parent. That's wise and great parenting. Don't disqualify yourself. So many times as parents, we just go, I can't. No, you can change, and then you can teach your kids the wise and right way to date, to love, and to have sex. Okay? And so that's like the intro to this thing. I'm going to use my one wheel, but I got to get my teaching stand. So sorry for me walking off into the back here. We're going to use a one wheel to explain the first preparation here. This is the pint. Okay, it's little. That's why it's called a pint. Do you think it's going to stay up there? Just stay put. Really quick. Okay, so today I'm going to go on a ride. If you know, these things can go off road in pretty muddy conditions. But if I'm going to go riding, typically I ride it just like this without this fender on it. This fender is so that when you go to ride in these muddy conditions that are out there, you don't get muddy, right? You get it. But there's a little bit of work. There's got to be a little bit of me checking the radar. Oh, is it going to be rainy? Is it going to get sunny enough to dry? The other day I met Zach. We call it our electric lunch, where we meet up and we take our one wheels to lunch. It's pretty fun just to go, hey, yeah, we met up. Then we got on our one wheels. We meet up in a place to ride our one wheels, which is pretty funny because most people, why don't you just drive there? Because an opportunity to ride your one wheel. But you know what I did before I got there was like, is it going to be wet? Should I put my fender on? Why would I want my fender? Well, because I don't want my pants to, well, let's be honest, I don't want my socks to get all dirty because my socks typically, my pants are rolled up like it's going to be a flood. So you got to do a little prep work on your one wheel to get it ready for those conditions. And today, that's what we're talking about today. Are you preparing for the future self? Are you preparing for your future marriage or the way your marriage will be in 10 years? Or how about if you're dating right now? Are you dating in the way that you're going to be married? Are you preparing yourself? Are you doing the work? Just like it's a little bit of work to pop this thing off, you pop this off, you take this, you put this on here. It's not that easy. You can see why you look and go, should I put it on? Should I not? You put it on, and all of a sudden, if we had all the time in the world, I'd put the screw back in there, and we'd be off riding in the dirt, and my feet would be fine. There's nothing worse than the other day, one of my kids, we were riding, and he went through tall grass, and as he was going through the tall grass, the seeds were getting into his shoe, and he just stops to have to clean out his shoe. There's nothing worse than getting your shoe full of rocks. But that fender, with a little bit of preparation, a little bit of work, keeps you from having all that going on. And so today, this is the prep work. Like, think about what kind of marriage, if you're not married, do you want? Middle schoolers, this whole subject for a high school middle schooler is so close in my heart because I've watched it ruin people's lives when they don't get these three things right. It just ruins things. And there's a whole bunch of reasons why. Some of it is because we don't prepare for the future. We're not preparing right now. So we won't be prepared when we meet the right person if you're single. A lot of times there's like these myths when it comes to relationships. It's like when I meet the right person, everything will be all right. I just need to meet the right person. That is like, come on. Everybody that has gotten married, you go like, no. I met the right person. And it's not all right all the time. There's a lot of work. Just meeting the right person doesn't make everything right. If you meet the right person and you're in a heap of debt, that debt doesn't disappear because you met the right person. If you have anger problems and you meet the right person, your anger problem doesn't disappear. What happens is that your anger problem becomes their problem. I get mad because of the way they speak to me. We no longer take responsibility for us. When we get into relationships, it now becomes the other person's fault. You've heard me say this, but let's just put everybody on the same page. There are no marriage problems. There's no relationship problems. There are none. It's all single people problems. It's single people problems that you didn't deal with when you were single. You got married, and when it comes up onto the surface, it's their fault. But really, it's a single people problem in marriage. However long you've been married, it's a single people problem. It's not a marriage problem. And there are heaps of times that people want to push back. No, this is a marriage problem. And when you really boil it down, after weeks of meeting with couples, that you boil it all the way down to go, oh yeah, it is a single people problem. I'm not getting something that I wanted. My expectations are not being met. It's a single people problem. Boy, has that changed Holly's in my marriage. We've been married 18 years. The first 7 years, 0 children. We know what it's like to be just her and I. We know how easy it is to just go, hey, let's go, and we can just go. Now it's like we have to find 8 pairs of shoes. I don't know about in your house, but we have gremlins that eat shoes. Like, you can only find one. Like, there have been plenty of times, we even come here on Sundays, and our children are either shoeless because we couldn't find any shoes, or they only have one shoe, and another shoe that don't match, right? It's just like, why are they wearing multiple shoes? Because we couldn't find it in the other. We just found a left and a right of a shoe, and they're wearing it. It's just the thing, like something in our house, there's an abyss that one day we're going to find that that's the left shoe is always there. I don't know why it's always the left shoe, but the left shoe is always missing in our house. If you're doing it and you're coming over to my house at this after party and you think it's a joke, stop. Stop hiding my kids' shoes. It's not funny. But we know what it's like to be just Holly and I. Like, for the 7 years, like, we honestly were like, no kids. This is amazing. Like, we would have kids over at our house all the time because we were youth pastors. And so our house was always, it looked like a frat house. Okay, it just did. We had kids, like, we were young at the time. And so we had kids out our windows on the second, sitting on our second floor, sitting on our roof and stuff. It was just the way we did it. And we were like, yeah, no kids. And then Holly one day goes, hey, what would you do if I told you that I was pregnant? And I was like, what? What just happened here? I was like, no. I was like, it's like looking for some cameras or something. We were in Walmart. Some of you know the story. I was like looking around like, what? No, we do things to stop. What is going on? And she's like, yeah, no, I've taken three pregnancy tests. It's like, what? You're going to have to do that in front of me. I need to see this, okay? I need to see the evidence. I need to make sure you're doing it. I'm reading the instructions on the box, okay? This is what you do with this thing. And I'm just like, now make sure that we wait if you set the clock. And you're just like, oh, no, it's changing. What does that mean again? Like, I always forget. It's like is 2 lines good? Is it what? Why can't they make it just like eat? Maybe they have, okay? But we've not used the ones that's easier. It's either yes or no. It's like 1 line, 2 lines. I'm like, why? Just say yes or no. It's real simple. Okay. So when she told me that, we were just like, it was just a shocker. We were not ready for it. And then all of a sudden, after that, she just has not stopped being pregnant thereon. She's been pregnant or nursing for the second half of our marriage. And I wouldn't change it. It's been a blast, but I have learned a lot on all 3 of these subject matters. I just realized I'm so glad we're doing this topic because it was for a long time I didn't know what caused children, and now I know. Okay, I found out this week. Legend told me, and so it was good. We had that good conversation. It was more for me than him. It was really good. And so here, if you just missed that, he just said, "Wait, you just told me." He did not get the joke there. It's okay. But if you're not preparing for the future version of you will not be prepared. For those that are married, did you know where the highest divorce rate is if you have children? It's when the last one leaves the house. That's the highest divorce rate for married couples with kids. Is because when the last child moves out, you look at the other person and go, I don't really know who you are. You're not the person I married. Because hidden inside raising kids and running from all the extracurricular activities they're doing and stuff, somewhere in there, the marriage gets put on the shelf and it is lost somewhere. And then the last kid moves out, goes to college. And then in that next year, it just like, oh, wait, I have to redate you? I just don't want to do that. And so as you hear if you're not preparing today for the future version of you in these topics, you're like, yeah, that's good for the dating person, the single person. I get all of that. But no, this is for the married person too. If you don't prepare now, what it's going to be like when you don't have kids anymore, you're going to see your marriage in a spot that you didn't need to be because you could have prepared today. You got to prepare today in that. Holly and I talk all the time. What's it going to be like when we don't have kids? And we go, and we don't say the good old days because we love the season of life we're in. But man, Some days we're like, you got to be really nice not to have to tote a diaper bag. Yesterday, typically Holly and I, we move as a tribe all the time, right? And so yesterday I took the boys out for lunch. We went to Chipotle, and I got out there, and I was like, oh, no, I forgot a diaper bag. I had nothing. I had absolutely nothing. No, no baby wipes, no diapers, no blankets, no nothing. It was just me and the boys, and I looked at Courage because he's the one in the diaper. I go, bro, you got to do daddy a solid today, okay? And not do a solid in your diaper, okay? Let's not do that. Give me a couple. You just behave, okay? Because we got nothing. This will turn out real interesting if that happens, okay? I will have to put you underneath the sink of some sort, okay? Just because I just forget, right? But that's moms are like, yeah, moms. That's like. Holly does great. Like, we walk out, she's got like 5 bags with her, and I'm like, why do we need all this stuff? And then when Dad's on duty, I said duty when I was talking about duty. When you realize what it takes to move an army. And so I love the season of life, but Holly and I are preparing in our marriage what it's going to look like. It was just her and I again. Because we don't want to be caught off guard. We won't be ready. Because this is not a trial thing, Holly and I. This is a forever thing. Like, it's forever. And we've had some dark moments. We've had scary moments when you get the notice that from a doctor that it wasn't good. And you're trying to be strong for the other person. They're trying to be strong for you. And you're just like, we've had it all. But I don't want to lose her in the end. And so we are doing our marriage in a way to prepare for the end. Here's the deal. If you're not preparing if you're single, whatever the stage is, right? If you're not preparing for whatever's next, then what happens is you begin to hurt people because you're not ready. Especially when it comes to dating, when you got all these isms going on and you're just like, if I just marry the right person, it'll all settle down. These are just because I'm single. These are just single things. When I get somebody, it'll be great. No, like, it magnifies every situation. All married people are going, yes, it does. It does. It magnifies it all. If you're not preparing to be dating, then you're going to hurt somebody, which will be you and the other person. If you're not preparing for what kind of marriage you're going to have when the kids move out or when they all get cars, if you're not preparing for that, you're going to get caught off guard and you're going to hurt the person that you loved and hurt yourself because it's not going to be the marriage you want. And so we need to prepare. We need to step into the preparation. And it does require work. It doesn't happen naturally. The illustration with the one wheel to the fender, the fender doesn't just put itself on when it's a rainy day. I have to do it. I have to take the time to do it. If you want to have your marriage go into the next 10 years, 20 years, 100, whatever, you got to prepare today. Now I can't tell you. I'm going to give you some of the things to put in your bag to prepare for, but honestly, I can't, without sitting down with you, I can't tell you exactly what you got to prepare in your life. When we sit down, I can go, oh, hey, if you don't fix this, you're going to be off. There was, many years ago, there was an island off of a city that wanted to have a bridge that connects to it. And so they came with an idea, these two cities, like, we're going to split the cost of it to connect this. And so we'll start on our side, you start on this side. Like, I don't even know how this is, like, really happens in modern technology when you hear this story and why somebody would think this is a great idea, because the minute I hear this, is like, this is a disaster. So they start. They have all the lasers pointing across and the lasers this way. And what happens is a couple months into the building of the bridge, someone stops and goes, are we going to meet in the middle? Like, are we going to actually, the goal is to get these two roads together in a straight line. Are we going to do that? And so they did all the math calculation and they start going, no, at present calculation, we're going to miss by a mile. They're going to be going that way, this way, we'll be a mile off when we get there. And they go all the way back to where did we get wrong? One of the sides was off by like not even a half inch in one thing, a half inch. But over a long period of time, it became a mile. See, in our lives and relationships, when we don't take care of the things in our life that are really small when we are single or before we get to the problem area of our lives, it's really small. But the further down we get, it becomes really big. And my hope is today is while it's little in your life, and it's little now because a week from now, it's going to grow, right? It just gets bigger. So it's littler than it would be 10 years from now. But you've got to look at your life and go, that, when he says this is what Jesus is saying in my life. I got to fix this area in my life. I got to fix it. Maybe for some of you, if you're single and you're in the dating, you got to get rid of that myth of like, when I find the right person, everything will be right in my life. Because what happens is when it's not going right, you start looking for the next right person. Instead of, it's me, I got to fix it. There is more to a satisfying relationship than finding or being found. There's more things than just being in a relationship. See, so for the setup of today, I was like, okay, what's Jesus have to say? What's a good setup to just get us the wheels turning? And so as I was saying earlier, what's Jesus have to say on the topic of dating? In his day and age, this is how it was done. If you were a young person, like Legend, he's 11 years old, all of a sudden, there would be this negotiation with other families. Yeah, Legend will marry you, but what are you going to give my family? They set it up. And some of the single people are like, I wish that was happening. The problem is that your relationship was bought with a cow, not love. It was this deal. Like, here we go. Yeah, you gave me enough cattle for my girl. So great. It was just an arranged deal. At 13 years old, around there is where most typical people in the day and age that Jesus was alive was married. 13 years old. Whew! I'm glad that did not. I had a lot of single problems, okay, at 13 years old. I'm glad that did not happen in my life. But 13-year-old arranged marriages. The birth control of that day and age when Jesus was alive was prostitution. The Greeks and the Romans came up with the idea of, okay, we want to stop our families getting so large. And their genius idea, sarcasm there, was to come up with the idea of prostitution. Well, we're not going to sleep with the person that we are married with, but we'll sleep with a stranger. That way, if they get pregnant, it's their problem, not my problem. All the way back in Jesus' day, that's what birth control was for. So when Jesus comes in and starts talking about relationships, talk about just gross. Just talk about missing it a lot. Because Jesus talks about relationships a ton. And so today, I want to get us started on the conversation. And over the next few weeks, I want to wrap it up. And so here Jesus steps into the scene, and he begins to go, okay, I'm going to set a new standard in relationships. I'm going to shift the way we've thought love was. I'm going to shift the way we do the marriage. I'm going to make a shift. And you can jump into the story in John chapter 15, verse 1. John is a disciple of Jesus, did life with Jesus. He recorded what Jesus did, and a lot of the historians believe that John, as he got older, he was one of the last disciples to live, and he's like, oh man, I know a lot of things about Jesus. I got to get this down on paper. And he actually dictated it to somebody because he was of age where he couldn't see very well. And so there's a ghostwriter writing John's book, and he's writing it, and he's making sure, hey, we got to put this in here. I want to make sure people know what Jesus had to say in this. And so we're going to use this parable, which is a made-up story by Jesus, to illustrate a point. And then we're going to wrap this thing up for today. But this is just to get us started. So John chapter 15, verse 1, Jesus says this, I am the real vine, and my Father is the farmer. Instantly you're like, what? Why is he talking about vine and a farmer and all this stuff? Because it made sense in Jesus' culture. I guarantee you when this is happening, like this is my opinion, okay? I've not read this in some historian theory, but I bet you Jesus is standing somewhere where there is a vine in a farm really close to him based on the environment that Jesus did life in. He's probably like, right over there's a bunch of grapes. There's vines over there. Okay, so here's the picture. I'm the real vine, and my Father is the farmer. So Jesus immediately put God and him together. And remember in parables, it's always God's in there, and you're in there. So as I read this, where do you fall in this? And where's God? And I'm going to help point all those things out. So if you don't get there, I'll get you there, okay? And so I am the real vine. My Father is the farmer. He cut off every branch of me that doesn't bear grapes. And every branch that is grape bearing, he prunes back so it'll bear even more. Instantly, Jesus sets up, okay, listen, we are to be fruit bearers. We need to be having a product coming, like we need to produce something. And some of you are like, well, I don't know what I'm producing. Just ask your coworkers. Ask your spouse if you're married. If you're dating, ask around. Somebody will tell you what you're putting off. Some people are really good at telling you without asking. Stop that too. Let them ask you, okay? Stop freely giving that information. That's how you start a fight, okay? Especially in marriage. Just learning from experience, okay? When they ask you, then you can say, okay, because it's your reputation. It's how you handle adversity. It's how you handle wealth. It's how you handle the opposite sex. All of these things are the fruits you're bearing. And Jesus simply comes and says, hey, if you call yourself a follower of Jesus, there better be some kind of fruit coming off you. Good fruit. Because he just alluded to, if there's not bearing fruit, it's getting cut off. My dad, God, he's going to come cut it off. But if you're producing good fruit, there's going to be a little bit of pruning in your life because you're going to produce even more fruit. Growing up, my parents bought 15 acres of land outside the city of Peoria, and my dad wanted fruit trees, and he put cherry trees, every fruit tree you could possibly put. And first year we got them, there was like one apple on all his trees, or a couple years when they were supposed to be producing fruit, they only got one apple on there. He's like, what is going on with these? And I'm supposed to prune these things back. Oh, and when it has one, prune that one back. It just seems so backwards to be cutting down something to produce fruit, because you're like, well, the bigger the tree is, the more fruit it produce. And Jesus steps in and tries to says, no, the more you prune back a tree healthy, the more fruit it actually produces. So maybe you're going through a season in your life where it's a pruning season. It's because Jesus is trying to prune back the good sometimes in our lives so that even more fruit would come from it. So what kind of fruit are you producing? What's your reputation? So Jesus continues this conversation. Live in me. Make your home in me just as I do in you. He's trying to say, hey, everything I've done for you, how I've treated you, I want you to live in that. I want you to do life like that. I want you to do relationships like you've seen me do it. And we talk a lot about Jesus here, and we always ask the question, what is Jesus saying to you on said topic? That's our heart, is that we would become more like Jesus. And so this is a fair question from Jesus, or a statement. He says, live in me, make your home in me just as I do in you. He's saying this is a two-way relationship. You follow me, become more like me, and we're going to hang out a lot. And the fruit you're going to start putting off, if you really are plugged into me like a branch to a vine. Think about a branch that is not plugged into a vine, it's dead. He's trying to paint this picture of like, if you want to be alive, then get plugged into me. Because a branch on its own is dead, but hooked into the vine, it's alive. We're the branches, he's the vine. And now here's what a lot of us will go, yeah, I'm a follower of Jesus. Because you know who he is, you pray, you read your Bible, but are you a follower of Jesus on every topic in your entire life? Or is it just in certain areas in your life which is easy to allow Jesus to have influence? Because when it comes to these three things in our lives, it's sometimes really hard to allow Jesus to have influence in those things because we are sabotaged constantly by our emotions. Most of these three things, love, sex, and dating, are driven by emotions. And emotions are hard because sometimes they sabotage our lives. Woo-hoo-hoo! He's hot. I want to be around him more. But he is very wrong in all other pieces, but he's hot. Your emotion says, well, I got to get close to him. Woo! I've watched great women, great girls that have a bright future sabotage their future because they're driven by emotions and not by wisdom. He's hot. Woo! Right. How's he treat you? I really love him. See, here's what happens, is our emotion triggers us to catch our eyes, and this is on everything. Emotion triggered. Woo, this could feel good. This could be right. Then it filters through our heart, which is our mind kind of going, is this right? Well, emotion says it's going to be fun. I'm in. And then it goes to our soul. And our soul goes, oftentimes, I don't know if this is the wise thing to do. It could be the way we spend our finances. It could be on a heap of things. But something comes back and says, stirs your stomach a little bit. It's not good. It's not how you treat somebody. You shouldn't allow somebody to treat you like that. They're not respecting you. And the soul sends back to the heart, saying, not good, not good. But the emotions are so strong going, whoa, but he's so good looking. And I've been single for a long time. I want to have somebody on my shoulder. I want to be able to put it on Instagram that I'm dating. And all of a sudden the emotions trump all reason and sabotage us. That's why it's important to understand that when we are plugged into Jesus, that he needs to have say on every area in our life, not just the ones that are easy. Jesus might come and say, nope, he or she is not the right one. And we've got to go, okay, because he knows more than you and me. I'm plugged into the branch. I'm a branch plugged into the vine. I'm going to listen to him on all topics. So Jesus continues to tell this story to make sure, hey, live in me. Make your home in me just as I do you. And maybe some of you are like, but why? And he goes on and says, in the same way, the branch can't bear grapes by itself, but only by being joined into the vine. You can't bear fruit unless you are joined in me. He continues, I am the vine, and you are the branches. When you're joined in me and I in you, the relationship is intimate and organic. The harvest is sure to be abundant. I love that part where John writes it'll be intimate and organic. It'll just grow naturally when we're genuinely plugged in. How do we get plugged in? I know you're like, but those are what everybody says. Because this is the way you get plugged in with Jesus, is read your stinking Bible. It doesn't smell. I'm just trying the importance of reading that. Come on. I say it's like, that's how we get to know who Jesus is. That's how, man, when I'm anxious, when I'm scared of the future, when I get news about some of you, it's like, oh, where do I run? If I don't run to what Jesus has to say, I'm going to run on my emotions, and my emotions are going to sabotage me most of the time. I'm going to freak out. I'm going to lose my mind. Emotions are great, but not to be led by. What makes us human is the ability to have emotions. But if we don't gain control of our emotions, they will drive our lives into the ground because our emotions are not going off reason. I mean, seriously, if you got kids, come on, they're emotional people, okay? It's like I spend most of my time teaching them how to control their emotions. And little girls' emotions are way different than boys' emotions, okay? I got two little sweethearts. They're up in some northern part of Minnesota. They're on some girl trip, so it's been guys at the house, girl trip there. But when you deal with my two little girls, you can just, like one of my boys can just kind of say, you look ridiculous, and their life is shattered. It's like, wait, like you don't though. Like, why are you? And they're just in shambles. And like, I'm like, hold on. Come on, you're still a princess. Come on, you got this. And my boys, you can say, man, your breath smells like poop. And they'll go, that's so awesome. Like, it's so good. You tell that to my daughters, they're like, oh my gosh, it does. It's just the difference in the emotions that drive things. And you got to understand the difference in the two. But we cannot be sabotaged any longer by our emotions. We got to be plugged in. We've got to allow Jesus to have input on every topic, because I can guarantee you in any three of those over the next few weeks, you are not going to agree what Jesus has to say with it. Because either you did it differently when you were a teenager, you are doing it differently, or you don't know how to parent it. And these are all okay things because Jesus has grace and mercy in it. This isn't a shame on you, bad, you, nothing. My hopes is that you will plug yourself into the vine and learn what Jesus has to say on these things, because he wants the best for you. As he steps into the culture in these and teaches the people listening, listen, here's how you need to be. This is the new thing. He goes on and says, I've loved you the way my Father has loved me. Make yourself at home in my love. If you keep my commands, you'll remain intimately at home in my love. And there's some of you going, oh, there it is. I thought this was going to be all about love. And here you are talking about commands, rules. You're just like everybody else. You just got commands now. What ones? What, the top 10? Well, I bet you there's lots now, Jesus. I'm sure the audience is going, oh, great, more commands, more things I got to do. And yeah, there are things to abide by because, listen, our bodies, we all work very similar. Very similar. We all have emotions. Some of us have learned how to control the emotions better than others. And some of it is because we've been plugged into the vine just a little bit longer. So our job is to love the way God has loved Jesus. Make yourself at home in my love. This is how you become a person worth finding. And this is how you become a person worth staying with, is to be plugged into Jesus on all said topics. The kind of person Jesus leads his followers to become is the kind of person we all ultimately are looking for and ultimately want to become. He's not looking for us to be puppets. He wants to speak in our lives because he wants to make your life better and you better at life. And you've heard me say that repeatedly. And some of you are like, okay, what's the take home here? The take home is, are you plugged into the branch? Are you a branch plugged into the vine? Are you preparing for the future you want to have? If you're single, are you preparing yourself? If you are dating, are you dating the way you want to mate? And I don't mean the way you want to have sex. I mean that because it rhymes, dating and mating. Meaning, are you dating in the way you want your marriage to be? Or are you just dating like, oh, whatever? Are you dating with purpose? Going, okay, I see this ending in marriage and I want my marriage to be great. If you're single, again, or still single, work on your single people stuff because, man, you want to be ready and worth finding. I'm going to read what I just said a minute ago. The kind of person Jesus leads his followers to become is the kind of person we all ultimately want to become and ultimately looking for. So you're making yourself worth finding, worth staying with, when we plug into Jesus on all topics. And here's the beautiful thing about the tribe of Unlocked Church is that, you know what, we're going to try to cover many, many topics, not just in this series, but through the lifespan of Unlocked Church to keep us going back. Am I plugged into the vine on this topic? Am I plugged in? What does Jesus have to say about this? What does Jesus have to say about if we keep going back to that, that's healthy. I'm not expecting you or me to know everything Jesus has to say all the time. It's always going back to what does Jesus have to say. So over the next few weeks, we are going to go over the fine print of what Jesus has to say about love, sex, and dating. Because if you simply go, well, isn't it just about loving? Or maybe you're going, Scott, when you talk about love, I just thought that meant we just love everybody and there's a lot of grace. And it's true, there is. We love everybody and there's grace, but there is a lot of fine line that Jesus, or fine print below, love your neighbor as yourself. Jesus breaks it really down in these areas to details. He gets really detailed on these topics because he understands that these topics can destroy your life. So, our hopes in this series is that when two people decide to live by the fine points, that their relationships become better. That, yeah, we are to love everybody. But how do we do that? That's what we're going to go through in these topics. And my hope is that you'll come back and bring a friend because we're going to dive into these things. And it's not just for single people. It's not for dating people only. And it's not just for married people. It's everything. You're going to go home with a lot. I hope today you're going home with a lot. I hope you think about how am I preparing for the future version of me? Because you won't be single forever. You won't always have children. You won't be a married couple without kids. Your life is going to change. And will you be ready for the change? That's the question. And you will be if you plug yourself into the vine. Would you close your eyes for a second? Jesus, I thank you for what you teach us on being plugged into you. And may today be the setup today, ourselves getting plugged into you. And when we learn about your viewpoint on things that don't line up to ours, maybe be quick to plug into the vine. Be quick to be a learner, quick to go back and say, okay, I got to change that in my life. I got to do that differently. Jesus, over the next few weeks as we unpack ideas about relationships, may it be something that brings life to relationships that seem to be going the opposite direction of life. May you allow us to go through this series with grace with ourselves. And Jesus, those that are coming in here today and they need you in other areas than relationships, I ask that you show up in those areas and that you would heal those that are sick, that you would restore those that have lost the emotional battle in area, that you restore that strength to keep fighting the emotions. Those that are scared, that you would restore their love in their life. Jesus, over the next few weeks, may we find ourselves growing in our understanding of who you are. Jesus, we absolutely love you. In your name.